So Kylo Ren was really the only reason I went to see the movie. I'm like, well, it's Kylo Ren. I mean, he seems like a Lord. I mean, he's a Sith Lord. Well, I know he's not technically a Sith Lord, but he's close enough. But he also seems to be some kind of edge lord. He seems to be like kind of this edgy teenager, etc. I think though what Kylo Ren shows is how little the left kind of understands our ideology and where we come from. Kylo Ren kind of came across to me as being a whiny, angsty teenager who's like, Daddy and Mommy didn't love me enough, so I became evil. And they kind of like, this is a problem that I have with a lot of just kind of character portrayals of villains, is Kylo Ren's evil, if we can call it that, doesn't really come from any ideological commitment. And I don't mean ideology like in the sense he read Marx or whatever, but I mean just some basic belief about the universe. Like Anakin was not a particularly intellectual character, but he had an ideology. He thought that the universe needed order. He thought it needed strength. He thought it needed decisive leadership. And that was kind of a result of the way he was raised. He was raised on a planet run by gangsters where slavery was legal. And he kind of had this desire to be kind of the strong protective father figure for the universe and to help Palpatine achieve that. That he never had. So, I mean, in Anakin, I think there was a fairly clear series of motivations that led to a clear series of thoughts that led to his actions. I don't know. The script wasn't the best, but I think if you sit down and think about it for a minute, it makes sense. And I think there was always that kind of motivation to him in comparison to Palpatine, where Palpatine was more cynical, and Vader, I think, to a large extent, thought he was doing the right thing. Or at least he kind of got the perspective over time that it was too late and that a collapse of the Empire and a loss of power of Palpatine would have done more damage than help, which it kind of did. But that's kind of how I see Anakin. Palpatine is just kind of depending on how you want to view him, is either a nihilist in pursuit of power for its own sake, but he justifies this. He explains it to people. He explains the Sith philosophy. He makes appeals to order, to the freedom that comes with power, etc. So he has an ideology. It doesn't have to be like some complex manifesto. Does Kylo Ren have an ideology? Not that I could determine. The First Order doesn't really seem to have an ideology. It could have been very simple. Like, it doesn't need to be strong. They could just say unity through strength. They could have pointed to the fact that the New Republic is corrupt, incompetent, and decadent. They probably could have stated that. My general feeling is that the lack of centralized government, as was kind of shown in the prequels, was an inability to prevent the member states from poaching each other. Was an inability to control kind of like predatory private institutions like the Trade Federation. They were kind of incapable of dealing with that, and so the desire for a centralized government streamed from that, and why people were willing to accept and follow Palpatine. Like, there was a logical thought procession there. But when we come to the First Order, I don't really know what they're reacting to. They don't talk about Palpatine. They don't talk about restoring the monarchy. They don't really talk about restoring the Empire. They just want to destroy the Republic because they're evil. From their name, we can assume that a commitment to order is part of it, but their motivations remain completely shrouded in mystery. And like I said, this doesn't need to be complicated. This could just be dealt with one line of conversation. We could have just had Captain Phasma or Kylo Ren basically give a speech or have a conversation. Like near the end, they could say that, just when Kylo Ren is fighting Rey, he could have been like, the galaxy is a state of chaos. All the rebellion did was destroy the only unifying aspect the galaxy has ever known, and now we have rampant corruption, we have gangs, we have civil wars, we have disaster, and there's a need to return to order. He could have just said that, but this movie just is so scared of really exploring those things. So instead, what is Kylo Ren's motivation? He's kind of a caricature of kind of people like me, and people like a lot of kind of modern edgy people. He's kind of a millennial, he's a millennial, kind of a Gen Xer or whatever. He's a young man who was raised by baby boomer parents who got divorced, and who doesn't seem to have had much of a purpose in his life. He was kind of raised in this postmodern, or I guess in this case, post-imperial, um, happy clappy multicultural environment. They're like, well, it's multiculturalism. All species are equal. We have my freedom and my democracy, etc. And he was raised in this environment by basically baby boomer parents who seemed to be grossly irresponsible and not really care about him much. And then he was sent to be trained by like some hippie, aka Luke Skywalker, and he just kind of snapped. And it doesn't really come across that he just saw this shit and he kind of looked into the void and he rejected it. It comes across to me that he just kind of threw a hissy fit. And he's like, I wasn't loved enough as a child, so I'm going to become evil. And then Snoke is like, I seduced him to the dark side. Well, how? I mean, just give us some fucking context. For Force's sake. I mean, with Darth Vader, we had all kinds of context. As I said, we had his childhood. We had his mother, we had his love for Padme, we had him chafing under the restrictions of the Jedi Order. There was a lot of motivation for Anakin. There was a lot of reasons for why he did what he did. We have nothing about Kylo Ren. What are his motivations? What is it he cares about? He just kind of throws hissy fits and destroys things with his lightsaber. We don't know anything about his master either, except for the name that he was fucking Snook. Like, what kind of a name is that? Like, we go from having Darth Tyrannus, aka Count Dooku, Palpatine. I forget what Palpatine's first name is. Aka Darth Sidious. We have like Darth Nihilus, Darth Revan, Darth Malak, Leia Organa, whatever her name is, Han Solo, to Snook. Like, it's like some kind of joke. It's like a troll. That's kind of what this movie felt like to me, like a big troll. But Kylo Ren, like, he's supposed to be an edgelord, but it's just the assumption that people like me and Millennial Woes and my friend Abstract and all of us are just kind of here because we're whining. I like, my parents aren't divorced. I wasn't really abused as a child. I just don't like postmodernity. I just reject it for a variety of reasons, not all of which really have to do with not being loved enough as a child. But they can't really understand that. So they just kind of make this lame caricature. And that's kind of what the whole First Order is. It's a lame caricature. They can't emphasize with what they want. So kind of like Voldemort, who doesn't really have an ideology, he's just evil. They just make them kill people and just commit arbitrary cruelty, which is something I just get tired of, because it's like, they don't do the evil things because of their ideology. They do the evil things because they want to make them evil. So there's no real depth. There's nothing really interesting about them. And that's kind of how I feel like about Kylo Ren. He's just kind of like whiny. And he has this like temptation towards the light side, which really isn't explored. He's conflicted, but why he's conflicted isn't really explored. Nothing about the character is really kind of explored or analyzed or taken seriously. He's just kind of there, and to be honest, the actor they chose to play him looks really weird, and he kind of has a strange voice. So I don't know. It kind of makes me miss Anakin. I mean, Hayden Christensen wasn't that bad an actor. They just gave him a shitty script to work with, and there was some bad directing. But I find, like, really in Revenge of the Sith, we really got a very strong, committed, emotionally powerful performance for him that we just didn't really get in the previous films. So that's kind of my thoughts on Kylo Ren. I'll probably be doing the rest of the characters. Probably we'll have a Star Wars week, because this is kind of the big release of the year, and maybe they'll get some more views and subs from it. So this is Argent Templar. Hope you enjoyed the video. Signing out.